by working backwards to you. The reason I envy someone is that I may envy their wealth, but their wealth is a result of their productiveness, their achievement, and how did they achieve? They use their minds, and they acted independently. And if I'm not willing to rise to that human challenge, that if I evade the necessity to do that myself, then I'm just, it's natural. Envy is a natural projection of that onto someone else. I mean, it's actually a case, Freud had the concept of psychological projection. And this would be kind of a form of it, I would think.
So I've always thought that one of the false premises that I see have led people to envy, which I really think is a real stupid emotion, is the zero-sum game perspective in life, not only in money but in everything. So they kind of think, somehow they came to the conclusion that there's X amount of goods, let's use money or for one example, there's X amount of goods, he has a lot, I have little. In other words, he stole from me because he stole my share. Because if things were right, we would have an equal. Everybody would get their share, and since he has so much, that's the reason why I have so little. So I'm envious of his, say, good fortune that somehow it just ended up in his lap instead of in mine, and I'm angry about it because it's not fair. And maybe even push that same kind of mentality to non-physical, non-material values. He got a good wife or whatever, and why can't I have one? And there's just a few good wives available, and he stole my potential good wife, etc. What do you think? Did that ever enter into one of the false premises that leads to envy?
Well, the zero-sum view of wealth, to start there, is a common fallacy. It's one of the reasons that people say, when people talk about the selfish person grabs more than his share, and that means someone else gets less than his share. But that means there are shares of a fixed pie. And the model here is we're sitting around the family dinner table. Mother is cutting the pie, and she gives one child a bigger piece than another. If you think the economy works like that, you have to do a fairly significant amount of evasion, because there is no one. It's not a pie. It's a set of activities across millions of people. And even within your sphere that you act in, there are thousands of relevant people, including all the possible employers, all the possible shopping places you would go as a consumer. And so, and new things are happening all the time. New things are being created all the time. So it's a thoughtless assumption. And therefore, I know that some people would invoke that and use this model to say, well, justice requires equal shares. But again, if you have to get to that point, you have to evade a lot of facts about the world.
I think you brought in directly it's a very infantile perspective.
Yes.
It's the perspective of a child who's totally dependent on his parents.
Exactly.
And not the perspective of a mature adult who is independent and producing his own wealth and his own fortune in life.
Exactly. I think of the simplest economic transaction. I've used this before. You go into a grocery store and you buy a quart of milk. Well, you pay something for it. Why did you voluntarily give up, let's say, $2 for that quart of milk? Well, the milk was more important to you than those $2. Why is the supermarket willing to sell the milk for $2? Because the $2 is worth more than the milk, which they didn't have to pay. They paid wholesale for it. So, right there, wealth is being created. Right there, we're both better off. How did that happen?
Trade. That's the essence of trade, right?
Yes, exactly. Trade is win-win, and that's even before we talk about
That's why those
innovation,
tariffs,
technology.
trade tariffs are bad.
Oh, okay.
So I think we clear all this, and I appreciate you giving your perspective on this flaw in character. I think it's especially stupid. I've never really understood why anybody would be envious. I've never even felt a smidge of it in my own heart. So it's kind of like perplexing to me.
Yeah. Well,
In fact, it's just the opposite. If people have good fortune and prosperity and achievement, as all objectivists know, that's good for me.
yeah. Well, exactly.
The right emotion is just the opposite,
Hey.
right?
Yes.
The
The opposite of envy
admiration.
is admiration, and beyond admiration, it's just. I mean, there's so many good things. I can be inspired to emulate it. I can be. It can
Opportunities.
remind me that the world is open to achievement. Just out of general benevolence, I want everyone to do well.
You could learn from it.
I can learn from it, exactly.
So the potential is positive in every aspect that you look at rationally.
Right. And it takes nothing from me.
That's the
It
main
offers
point.
so many benefits. For starters, it takes nothing from me.
Right.
You know.
Well, excellent interview. Thank
All
you,
right, thank
as
you.
usual, David.